Hey buddy, watch this.
Hello, Regis Kelvin is the name, and Heroes of the Storm is the game, and these are my first impressions of the brand new hero, Probius. This guy just hit the public test realm, and I'm taking a look at him for the first time. I can't believe it, Blizzard actually made a hero out of a worker unit. This is simply a Protoss probe that's been given a name, Probius, and he is our newest specialist hero in Heroes of the Storm. So let's take a look at this guy's basics, his abilities, his talents, maybe learn a little bit about his playstyle and strategy as well. Starting off, he has 2,763 health, which is definitely on the smaller side for some of the lighter specialists and assassins out there, the kind of squishy caster types. 600 mana. His trait is Warp in Pylon, as one might expect. 14-second cooldown on this bad boy. Warp in a Pylon that generates a power field and grants vision of the surrounding area. Probius only regenerates mana while inside a power field. Up to 2 pylons can be active at one time. So this feels a little bit like maybe Zagara. Placing little dudes around the map and giving vision out of them and receiving a benefit while being inside. Although I think they're going to be even more central to Probius's playstyle than our Zagara. But 14-second cooldown there, you can keep 2 up. It sounds like you're going to have to keep moving these around the map as you kind of position in a new zone. You know, early on in a lane, you might do something like this, it looks like, but later on, it's going to be like keeping them up as you move across the map and stuff. It's going to be important to set up little zones of influence. So his Q is Disruption Pulse. Cooldown is only 3 seconds. Fire a burst of energy forward, dealing 400 damage to all enemies it passes through. Okay, so it does pass through enemies. That's important. So you're going to be able to poke quite a bit with this ability pretty often. It reminds me of something like Chromie, perhaps, but maybe even better. Hitting the center of a warp rift will cause it to explode. Is this a warp rift? No, I don't know what that is yet. This is warp rift, his W. Dealing additional damage. So W is warp rift, 6-second cooldown. Open an unstable warp rift at a location that takes 1.25 seconds to arm, which then slows nearby enemies by 20%, lasting 9 seconds. Armed warp rifts explode when hit by Disruption Pulse, dealing 700 damage to nearby enemies. Okay, so that's interesting. It doesn't arm right away, but I think you can still... Oh no, you can't. We missed it. We did not blow that up in time. That's interesting. That's going to be a difficult mechanic, I think. Timing that right. Like, you can lock off a zone, blow it up if somebody runs through. But there's just a lot of timing that has to happen, because there's the cooldown before it activates. You have to have your Q up as well. I mean, it's a slow regardless, even if it never works. I guess the slow is somewhat significant in the zoning potential, but it feels like that's going to be a mechanically challenging thing to... I guess not mechanically challenged, but a timing challenging thing to get right. But there's also Photon Cannon, 15-second cooldown. Warp in a Photon Cannon that deals 208 damage per second, lasts for 11 seconds. So it seems like these are going to hurt pretty hard. What's the range on that? Did we see the range? I didn't... Must be placed within a pylon's power field. Deactivates if it doesn't have a pylon powering it. How many of these can you have active? Can you have an infinite number of these active? So let's place it here, but how do we remove our pylon? Like, I guess we have to place a new pylon to remove our pylon. So let's see what happens. Yeah, it stays... Oh, it has a timer on it. It stays there, but it warps back out. Okay, so you can't, like, leave these around the map and have them sleep and just go reactivate them. They're only going to last for a certain duration. So again, this is another one where you're going to have to go, like, set up a place, set up a little ambush or trap, and go to town. I want to see these things in action, though, so let's turn on an enemy hero. Let's get Arthas in here. He's the usual punching bag, right? Let's see these photon cannons blow a dude up. Where's Arthas? Did he not come in? Arthas, bro. We want to see you. Maybe we'll try the Butcher. Not sure why my enemy hero... Maybe I gotta do this. Oh, there we go. That's what we wanted. Huh. Oh, that's good wave clear. Yeah, that's nice. But again, I don't know about this W. So let's try to zone off this, right? And say, okay, but you're trying to leave. No, we missed. There's just a lot. That's what I mean. There's a lot of timing going into this. Like, that was good, right? But it's gonna take some practice and some work. By the way, Probius's ranges, other than his actual... Like, his range is not a full ranged auto attack. Like, it's sort of a middle ground. Uh-oh. But I'm kind of disappointed by this, these didn't seem to do that much damage to me. And they have a 15-second cooldown, so it's not like you can... I mean, actually, I guess you can tell exactly how much damage they do, can't you? They do 208 per second for 11 seconds. So they do a total of 2,200 damage if every hit hits. I guess if one hero is trying to go somewhere and they get stuck in a field like that, it could work, but uh-oh. But yeah, this range is awkward. I don't know, we need to check out talents, of course, because that can change everything, certainly. So let's go ahead and check out our talents. Let's make sure we're not gimping ourselves needlessly. But his base kit is just, I don't know, it feels awkward so far to me. Up first is, at level 1, Echo Pulse, Disruption Pulse now returns to Probius. 1.25 seconds after reaching its target. Dealing 75% damage on the return trip, so it just comes back. That's actually pretty good. It just doubles your poke potential and has more chances to hit your W, and you can do extra stuff with timing and do some fun, crazy stuff. There's also Warp Resonance. Hit heroes with Warp Rift Explosions. Oh, that's going to be tough, I think. After hitting 10 heroes with Warp Rift Explosions, increase the explosion damage by 100. After hitting 20 heroes with Warp Rift Explosions, Warp Rift gains 1 additional charge. I don't know that that's that good, and I don't think it's going to be that easy to do either, in my opinion. There's just a lot of timing that goes into that. That's one cool thing that you can do is like set up the combo if you have this thing where it comes back. You don't have to worry about it. Kind of set it and forget it. But I don't like Warp Resonance that much. Also, gather minerals. Enemy heroes and minions drop minerals when killed. Collect them to increase the health of Photon Cannons by 8, up to 560. After collecting 70 minerals, Photon Cannons deal 25% more damage and can see over obstacles and reveal nearby cloaked units. So that's cool. That has some counter potential, I guess, for stealthies. That'd be really nice to zone out areas to prevent stealthies from sneaking in. But I still like Echo Pulse the best. Level 4, we got Photon Barrier. While Photon Cannon is alive and powered, Probius gains 30 spell armor. Well, that can certainly help keep him from getting blown up because his health pool is pretty low. There's also Turbocharged Worker Rush. Oh, what is Worker Rush? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means. Is that something we get when we're in a... Am I the only person that doesn't see any... I don't see any, Oh, Worker Rush is my mount. Oh, okay. I didn't know that was a thing. Activate to gain an additional 60% movement speed for 5 seconds, taking damage ends this effect earlier, and Probius moves 10% faster. So we're moving a little faster by default. Oh, this is just a sprint. Okay. That's our mount. Yeah, alright, well that's cool. What's the cooldown on it? 40 seconds? Alright. So he's not a mounted character. That's actually really important to note. Anyway, so this gains an additional 20% movement speed while in a power field passively. So we move really fast just by default in here. That's pretty cool. That's going to make you really difficult to hit. That's pretty awesome. And the cooldown's reduced by 20 seconds too. So that actually feels pretty good. That's really nice for mobility. There's also Shield Capacitor. Probius gains permanent shields equal to 10% of his max health. Shields regenerate quickly as long as he doesn't take his damage recently. That might also be good, but, you know, honestly, that's kind of a small shield in the scheme of things. If you're playing right, I think Turbocharged will give you more benefits than Shield Capacitor. Moving on to 7, there's Particle Accelerator. Disruption Pulse deals 10% more damage for each enemy or Warp Rift hit, up to 40%. So, yeah, this gets stronger if you hit more people. But, you know, even 40% damage is what, like another 180 damage or something like that on this. I mean, that would be a pretty hard hit, 580 roughly, but I don't know that it's game-changing necessarily. There's also Rift Shock, hitting an enemy hero with Warp Rift. Explosions increases Probius damage against them by 20% for 10 seconds. That's interesting. But again, I just feel like, for me at least, that these explosions are going to be really, really challenging aspect of play. You can't put them... Well, you can't put them under yourself. I don't... Oh, I was just looking at this. I thought there was a hole in the middle here. I thought this was donut shaped, but that's just theoretical for the actual explosion. So, I don't know. The range isn't that long. Like, there's just a lot of problems with this. The cooldown's awkward. Can you actually stack them? Because they are charges. You can't really... You can't... I don't know that you can stack them and blow up two at once. Oh, you can, but you'd have to catch somebody right in the middle. Anyway, that just feels awkward to me again. There's also Tower Defense. When Photon Cannon damages an enemy hero, its cooldown is reduced by 1.5 seconds. That is sort of intriguing to me. I think in low skill games where people just kind of stand in your cannons, that could make you a cannon spammer, which would be nice. And you wouldn't run out of mana, because Photon Cannons don't have mana. Only the Warp Rift and the Disruption Pulse have mana. So that could be an intriguing style of play. In general, I guess Particle Accelerator, though, is my favorite at this tier. Moving on to the Heroics, there's Pylon Overcharge. Increase the size of Pylon power fields and allow them to attack enemies within it for 241 damage per second. Last 10 seconds, and passively Pylons gain permanent shields equal to 50% of their max health, so you can see the shield pop up there. And now I guess these operate as sort of secondary Photon Cannons. So let's... Oops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to do this. Let's warp in some minions here. Hopefully they make it in time. But I have to activate that. Like, this has to activate. So these will now start shooting. Yeah. They do way more damage than the things. But still, like, I just don't know that that feels like a lot. I guess if you get somebody trapped in an area, they don't know it's coming. You activate that. You have your cannons and your pylons up. They're just gonna dead. They're just gonna dead. They'll be dead. They'll melt. So I guess that's actually pretty cool. The passive effect is nice too, because these are more annoying to kill. Null Gate is another option though. 40-second cooldown on this one. This one has an 80-second cooldown. Vector targeting. Project a barrier of negative energy in the target direction that lasts 4 seconds. Enemies who touch the barrier take 140 damage per second and are slowed by 80% for as long as they remain in contact with this. Let's grab some random stuff. Let's see what Null Gate looks like. We got vector targeting, which is always really fun. And there's a wall. I thought it moved for some reason, but I guess not. Okay, oh, that's cool. That's cool. This is like a Tassadar wall, which makes sense, because it's another Protoss, but so this is like you can zone off a gate just insanely effectively right now. Like, they're gonna take a ton of damage, be slowed. You're gonna do damage to the towers as well. That's awesome. That's really cool. This has to be the better choice than Pylon Overcharge. I feel like it's just too good for controlling the map, which is always nice. Moving on to 13. We got Aggressive Matrix, Pylons, Power Field, grant allied heroes 20% increased attack damage. That sounds really, really awesome. Setting up a pylon in the back and just letting your ranged or casters kind of poke away inside of here for increased damage. That sounds really, really good. There's also Power Overflowing. Pylons Power Field grants allied heroes 10% increased spell power and 2 mana per second. That could also be nice. Don't underestimate that mana gain too. Depending on the situation, if you're really pressuring a team and you're far up the map and going for a keep, that kind of thing, and need a refill or need to stabilize your resources, That could be a nice choice in the moment. There's also Shield, Battery. Pylon's Power Field grants allied heroes 66 shields per second up to 263. Shields persist for 4 seconds after exiting a Pylon Power Field. So that's nice. There's 3 options here for buffing your team via your pylons, and it's just going to depend on your composition, the game state, a lot of effects here that are all actually quite good, I think, and you'll have to see what's happening in the game at the moment to know which of these you prefer. I would suggest that Power Field gives attack damage is probably your best bet on average. So moving on to 16, there's Quantum Entanglement. Enemies continue to be slowed for 3.5 seconds after their last contact with a Warp Rift. So that's your W. You know, it slows them when they touch it. They're going to slow for longer. I mean, that's cool, but I don't know. 20% slow is certainly impactful, but you know, an extra 3 seconds on it is not maybe the best thing in the world. There's also Gravity Well. Enemies are slowed more the closer they are to the center of a Warp Rift, up to a maximum slow of 60%. So 60% slow is huge. That's really, really awesome. But it takes some time to activate this thing, so I guess it wouldn't be that hard to catch somebody in the middle. If they're running up to an objective or through an area like this, and you know they want to go through there, you're probably going to be able to land that slow. So that could be pretty good. There's also Repulsor. Enemies hit by a Warp Rift explosion are knocked away from the center. I think the explosions are going to be tougher, so I don't like this one quite as much. And finally, Interference. Enemies hit by a Warp Rift detonations have their spell power reduced by 35% for 3 seconds. That's intriguing, sort of a caster counter. I don't know that I like it as much, though. I think probably Gravity Well is going to be the best option here, using those Warp Rifts as a sort of crowd control or the zoning tool. Feels like that's going to be the best utility to me. Finally, at level 20, we've got some upgraded heroics here. Construct additional pylons is the name of this one, which is pretty funny. If you've played StarCraft, Probius can now have up to 3 active pylons. They increase the damage of pylon overcharge. That's where they start attacking by 25%. So if you go for that heroic, that sounds like it'd be really, really strong. There's also Gatekeeper. Null Gate lasts indefinitely if either end is within a power field. Only one Null Gate may be active at a time. That sounds awesome. So for instance, I can just block off this entryway if I had aimed it correctly. I can just block off this entryway forever. It's in a power field. They gotta go find this and kill it, otherwise this gate's gonna last forever. So the enemy team just can't come in here and do this. They're gonna have to deal with this thing. We can blow them up at this gate, we can trap them in, they can take damage, we can prevent escapes. That just seems so good to me. Really, really good. And it's not like it costs mana. It's not a thing where it's depleting my mana over time, like Chromie's Circle, for instance. It's just set it and forget it, which is nice. The final 2 talents, though, are Shoot 'em Up. Hitting a Warp Rift with Disruption Pulse causes 4 additional pulses that deal 50% damage to be fired from the impact location in different directions. So that's your hitting your W with your Q causes 4 additional little baby explosions, I guess, that deal half as much damage and fire from the impact location in different directions. That just sounds awkward, and I guess I have to see this, though. So let's really quickly jump in here and grab that. Oh, it just shot out like 4 little beams, but that's just going to be impossible to hit, and they don't do that much damage. They're going to do like 350 damage each. I guess that's not bad if all 4 were to hit, but it seems so random that how could you ever get consistent value out of that? I guess it's actually not random. It seems like they always go in the same direction. Yeah, they always split off in the same direction. So I guess theoretically you could aim that if you were an incredibly gifted player. Like we could try to guarantee that one's going to hit that fence by. For instance, we know one's going to shoot out straight to the left, like perpendicular to my beam. So yeah, I mean it's possible, but again, just a lot of complexity is going to go into this ability, timing and everything else. So I don't like that. I think these options have to be better. The final talent is Probius Loop. Whenever a rift explosion hits 2 or more enemy heroes, create a new warp rift in the same location. Yeah, that's cool, but how often are you going to hit 2 people? Maybe I'm underestimating a little bit just how easy it's going to be to hit people with this, but I just, the explosion radius feels too small. It's just the timing is awkward. You're going to have to focus on this aspect of play so much. I just don't like these upgrades to Warp Rift. I don't think that's a style of play that fits me, at least. Maybe someone who's really mechanically gifted and understands the timing and positioning perfectly could do better, but that's not for me. So if I had to pick talents here, I guess I'd go with Echo Pulse, Turbocharged, Particle Accelerator, Null Gate, Aggressive Matrix, Gravity Well, and Gatekeeper. Those sound like a cool little positional zoning build, defensive build, like almost a tower defense style of play a little bit, with just locking down an area, protecting it. You still have some direct active influence with your Q upgrade, so this is sort of a powerful, spammable poke ability, which is nice. That allows you to stay at range without having to use your auto attack, which has a surprisingly short range for a hero like this because you're so squishy. So I think that kind of play is going to be most effective. You still have wave clear thanks to your W explosions, so you can play and do a lot of different things. All that said, I don't really know that Probius is going to be a fantastic hero. I think he gets a lot better at 13 when he can start helping his team in more significant ways as he becomes sort of a pseudo-support specialist in a way. Not support in regards of healing, but support in regards of buffing your team and influencing your team and controlling the map a little more. You already have vision from the start, so less of a wave clear tower attack specialist and more of a I'm going to help my teammate specialist, which makes sense for a Protoss probe. But all that said, I love the idea of the character. It's really cool that Blizzard is going this far to do something so cool with a probe style character. Just a worker unit instead of a named unit, which is awesome. So I'm excited to see this guy in action and see what better players than I do with him and how he works in actual live games. So all that said, if you have any thoughts, comments, or questions about Probius, you guys know where to leave them. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, game on.